this is Patrice. So I wanted to talk about an issue that's been going around a little bit. I've heard about it in social media. I've also had an opportunity to actually talk to somebody about it, and it just came up on the forefront a few months ago with a person. And it's the breastfeeding issue the breastfeeding in public issue. So I just wanted to give you my opinion on it, and you can let me know what you think. But first of all, let me just say that I was in a situation where we were promoting mothers, young mothers, if they get pregnant, to try to encourage them to breastfeed their children. And so we were talking about all the wonderful, healthy benefits of breastfeeding children, not just the medical and health benefits, but also the psychological benefits that come with being able to breastfeed your child, and so your baby. So we were there talking about that, and I had a young girl. Well, she wasn't a young girl. She was a young lady, probably around 27, 28, a young mom. And she asked a question of me, and she said, how did your generation take the research? And I went out and I researched on social media. I talked to families. I talked to moms. I talked to people in my generation that were breastfeeding their babies. My sister, who her children are around the same age as mine. She has 3 sons, breastfed her 3 sons in public as well. And I asked her, did you have any issues? And she said no. My sister was military, married to military, and she herself was military. So she was in Fort Carson, she was in Fort Bragg, she was in Mannheim in Germany. And I also have 3 children, and I breastfed all 3 of my children. Well, 2 of them I breastfed the first 2 for a year each, a little over a year, and the last one I breastfed for around 6 months. And 2 of them were born in Texas. 1 of them was born in California, and I never ever had any issues with shaming. I was able to breastfeed my babies everywhere because I literally breastfed them on demand. So I never pumped. I never needed to pump. Point of the story is that I have one in 86, I had one in 92, and I had one in 97. And so during this time, I'm breastfeeding everywhere in public, and I never ever got any shame. I asked friends, I asked relatives, I asked everyone that I knew, and I never heard of anyone being shamed. So I was really, really intrigued about this question and all these. And then when I started researching on social media, there was a lot of talk about how moms now get shamed. But then I had an opportunity to witness it firsthand. So I went to take my granddaughter, who's 3 years old, to a swimming lesson, and I was with her in the swimming lesson, and there was a lot of other moms there with their children, and this young mother was there, and she had a baby, and I guess the baby wanted to got hungry, and so the mom had like almost like a bathing suit on, the ones that go over your head. So she took it off and put it down, and so now her 2 full breasts are fully exposed. And I'm looking at her from across, the pool, and I'm looking at her because it's two fully expressed breasts. And then she takes the baby out of the carrier and then puts a little pillow and then puts the baby and latches it on. And so now you're seeing her 2 breasts, and you're seeing the baby suckling her mom's breast. And I have to say that I was very, very surprised. I didn't understand why she would do that. And I looked around, and there was some guys and women looking and glancing, and then they would try to look away, discreetly. Nobody shamed her or anything, but it was very shocking to see. And the reason I say it was shocking was because of the method that she was using. So let me just say that I do not believe 100% that when you read about it in social media, when you hear about it on Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter, whatever, it's not a breastfeeding issue. This is an exposure issue. Really, that's what it really comes down to, because I breastfed my children for more than a year each, and I never had that problem. So the difference is that when I used to breastfeed on demand anywhere, parks, stores, wherever, I would, I had those bras, the nursing bras, the ones that have the little clip that open up and just expose your breast. But before that, I would put my receiving blanket. I would open up the clip, put the baby in there. He wasn't stifled. He wasn't choking. He wasn't nothing. He was comfortable. The baby was comfortable. I was comfortable. I was comfortable. I was covered. My breasts were covered. It was very discreet. It was very modest, and my baby would feed, and it was very natural, very organic. And I never got shamed. I never got nobody ever mentioned anything. Nobody ever told me anything bad. Um, and I would cover it up, and that was it. I felt, and it wasn't because I wasn't covering myself because I was ashamed of myself or anything. I just don't know people. I don't know everybody that's walking down the street. I don't know if someone's a creep or some lewd person. So I just didn't feel like I needed to be letting any random people look at my breast. I mean, that's private. That's my business, and I didn't think that I need to be exposing my business to anyone else. I thought that was gross and creepy, and I didn't want anyone looking at me that way. I just like, oh, no, don't look. Keep your eyes away. Like, no, that's just, no. So, so when this girl recently had an opportunity to ask me that question, um, I responded that way, and I told her, it's not a breastfeeding issue. So I was never shamed for that. I was never made to feel bad about me breastfeeding my children because I was very discreet and modest about it. I think that millennials might feel a little differently about that, and so the way they do it is probably what's getting the criticism, not the breastfeeding itself. The breastfeeding itself, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. I think it's just the way it's being done. So let's clarify that it's just the way it's being done. So when I told the girl this, she got really upset, the young woman, and she told me, "Oh no, it's women like you who who make it bad for us because we're a different generation and we believe that it's natural, it's organic, it's nothing sexual, and the reason you have a problem with it is because you sexualize everything. It's your generation that sexualizes everything, and so if a man or a woman are looking at it and being lewd about it, it's their problem, not my problem. I'm just doing something natural. It's something, bodily function that my body is doing, and it's providing nutrition to my baby. So why should I be ashamed of that?" And I said, "Well, I wasn't ashamed of that either, but by your own argument, then what's the difference between, say, a man walking down the street and having to use the restroom, and he pulls out his penis and says, 'Well, I need to go and urinate because it's a natural organic bodily function.' And he's not doing anything sexual. He's not using it for sexual purposes. He's using it to do something natural, organic that he needs to do, which is relieve himself." And so I told him, maybe that's a very extreme analogy. I don't know. And then she brought up, well, in some European countries, women walk around naked and everything's fine. So it's just how we see things. But it comes back down to the basic premise of that's fine. If that's going to be your argument of how we perceive nakedness, then that's something else. So instead of talking about shaming people for breastfeeding, at least title it right and say, should we expose ourselves completely when we're breastfeeding, or should we be discreet and modest while we're breastfeeding? And I think that's more of an accurate depiction of what is going on, because I can guarantee you that if I ever saw a woman breastfeeding, I mean, I would be really happy because I think it's great for her and the baby to breastfeed. But again, I don't think I would know anybody who would shame somebody just for breastfeeding. I think it's just the way that it's being breastfed. So again, when you read about it and hear about it, again, to me, it's not a breastfeeding issue. It's an exposure issue. But that's just my opinion. So let me know what you think.